Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and welcome to another episode number 158 of Shochu'sday. Your hosts, Christopher and Steven, are here streaming in live from various parts of Japan. Kanpai to everybody. Morning, Kanpai. You're on the move, Steven. What are you up to?
I am. It's a beautiful day, sunny day. I didn't want to sit at home, so I'm out walking around Fukuoka. This is Ohori Park. This is the big lake behind me. This is a man-made lake, but it's pretty nice. And I'm sort of gonna find a place to get comfortable and sit and have a chat. But yeah, feels like spring's not that far away. So I wanted to be
Yeah,
outside.
and my sinuses can feel spring everywhere I go. So you're braver than me. I probably would not venture outside just because I'd be hacking up all sorts of things for days afterwards.
Got a mute
But
button for that. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to keep my finger right on it. Well, welcome everybody. For those that are going to be joining us soon, it's a 2024 is well underway. Things are moving and shaking, and whatever you happen to have in your cup right now, mine is coffee, unfortunately, but please let us know. We're going to just bounce around here pretty quick. I'm going to get straight into the booze news. And nothing crazy necessarily, but one thing that is upon us is, of course, Hanami season. And the shochu industry does have a tradition of releasing bottles or expressions, versions of their shochu that are themed towards Hanami. I know that Kagoshima Prefecture is about to release on March 1st 13 different expressions that will be themed towards the cherry tree blossom season, which typically across the country gets started in March and extends depending on your latitude through well into April anyways. So those should be fun to find display what am I trying to say? Store displays on. Particularly down south. I don't know, maybe even up as far north as you, Steven. You might see a couple of those displays in better bottle shops.
yeah, fortunately we have a couple of Kagoshima specialty shops here in Fukuoka, so those should be available. And what's nice about these is unlike like the cans of Asahi Super Dry that have cherry blossoms on them, which has the same beer inside,
Yeah,
these are actually special bottlings intended to be enjoyed with the coming of spring, right? And
right.
they're fresher, they're definitely interesting, they're fun to drink. So I appreciate the seasonality that started to creep into the shochu industry between this and the summer shochu and the winter shochu, the shinshu. Like we've got all these different seasons now, which is not something I really remember from years past. So that's cool.
Yeah, it certainly is a recent creation from by the industry, and I think give it a few more years, and like the Shinshu tradition, people will actually be waiting for it. And you're right; these are distinct expressions that don't have a place anywhere else in the calendar. So I think one thing they might be missing on, in my personal opinion, is that so far what I've tasted from the Hanami expressions is that they're not really tuned to Oyuwari, which because it's still pretty chilly outside. If you're outside doing Hanami in Japan in March, in most places, and you're bundled up, like it's almost Hanami season where you are, uh, you're going to need to wear a thick outer layer. And I think it's kind of appropriate to have a pot of hot water with you and mix some oyuwari out in the park. But I don't these expressions in their pink livery are a little light, if I remember correctly.
You're absolutely right. I think the idea is more the hope for the coming of spring than the actual enjoyment of the
I think
shochu in the
I think you're
realities
right.
of spring.
Yeah.
Where you're absolutely right. I think the best hanamis I've had in Japan, hanami, of course, meaning literally flower viewing party, essentially,
Yep.
uh, have usually been when the blossoms are just blooming and it's still pretty crisp morning, not unlike today. And yeah, you want that hot water. You
Yeah.
might have your ice cold beer as a chaser, but you're going to need that hot water service
Hundred
to
percent.
keep yourself warm, so you're not like running for the train as soon as you've had a couple. So definitely
Uh,
agree with you there.
pro tip for folks who are going to be attending their first Hanami is whenever you think you need to go to the toilet, go use the toilet if you're out in a park with public facilities, because guess what? There will be a long line. So you need to get there way ahead of time. And if you have, even if you have to walk a long ways to find a less populated one, I highly recommend it. Otherwise, your day gets real miserable real fast. And speaking of, I don't know if you have any other news, Stephen.
No, that's a nice setup. We got a lot of stuff going on, but I think that's more the main focus.
You are correct. One of the main ones, I'm going to just throw a ticker on here, and I mentioned this on the last live stream in episode 157, but the annual Japan Distilled and Kanpai Planet cross sponsored, and alongside Baird Beer too. They never get top line billing. I don't know why. They should. They're more famous than the other two companies. But Baird Brewing and Japan Distilled and
maybe
Kanpai
they get
Planet.
paid for it. Maybe they get paid for it, so they don't get billing.
That's true. They make. I'm not even going to comment on that.
You guys are breaking even. So.
They do fine, yeah. So our annual party, it was interrupted for a few years during the pandemic, but our annual party is on again. I think this might be like the 5th edition of it. And we will, of course, be in Yoyogi Park on March 24th if you happen to be available. I will bring some treasures from my private collection, and I will do the normal Shochu and Awamori bar, and Baird Brewing will set up their draft beer table, and should be a good one. Hopefully the weather cooperates. Last year we of course had to call an audible at the last minute and move the whole thing inside, which worked out really well, as these things go. Much better than obviously being out in the muddy park under the rain. But hopefully this year we get another sun-struck afternoon. And anyways, that one's coming soon. The other upcoming events, I guess. You taking us for a ride here?
I'm trying to use my little gadget to hold the phone instead of my hand. So it's a new phone, and the gadget's not used to it.
All right. I'll keep going though while you sort that out. Let's see. The next up we have.
Well, let's just talk about that Hanami for a little bit, because that was a lot of fun last year, even though it ended up being indoors. Absolutely worth doing if you're in the Tokyo area, if you're traveling in Japan. So I'm definitely a fan. Sadly, I will not be there this year, but you're only going to hear that here. I'm not gonna put that on social.
Well, last year worked out. We were able to get a DJ in there to spin some good music, and it was better in some ways because number one, we could control the weather. Number two, we had air conditioning. Number three, there were toilets really nearby that were clean, and then access to clean running water and all those things. So there were some perks, even if the cherry blossoms were further away. This year, that was the first time we got rained out. And this year, I think, who knows, the law of averages maybe will be in our favor, and we'll get back to sunny skies. With our luck, it'll be super, super cold. But the way that you play that is you bundle up. You bring some disposable slippers to keep your feet warm, and you drink lots of oyuwari, and then it's really not that tough of a calculation.
Yeah, I mean, if it's cold and sunny, that's not really a problem, because that thermal energy certainly gets you. I'm sitting here, pretty crisp day, and I'm warming up, just sitting in one spot. So there are definitely strategies for inclement weather with that.
Is gonna help, I think. Yeah, let's go back in time a little bit here. I'll put that Kanpai Planet thing back up. Oh, you know what I should do? I should drop the URL for that in the chat, just so that it exists, and people, here we go, Control V and enter, and hopefully that. What did I do? No, I just made a new freaking banner, you jackass. Chat comments. There we go. In the comments. Here we go. Here it comes. Hopefully that goes to both Facebook and YouTube with no issues. Sometimes Facebook gives us a hard time. Looks like it went through. Banners. Going back to the banners, and the next thing up. Let's go back in time a little bit. This was an event that speaking of staying warm in cold weather, it was the first Oyuwari event that I have ever attended, that I have ever seen, where everyone is really pushing. There were like 18 shochu makers in Nakameguro outside. They all had booths, and it was great. You could easily walk in and get coins to buy your glasses of oyuwari or hot water mix shochu, and everybody was really only focused on oyuwari or maiwari that had been heated. Of course, Tekkan was there, and he had a pork bun steamer, and he had little tokuri inside of it, so he was like steaming these tokuri of his
Of course he
maiwari.
was.
Yep, of course he did it. He did it. He took it to the next level. It was a good group of makers that were all there to do this, and it had nothing like this I had never witnessed before, and it went over very well. I think it was very popular. Furusawa-san was there. Sato was there. Nakamura was there. Tomita was there. It was a pretty good cast of Fuji was there. So it was good to be able to reconnect with Shoro and Yanagita and Jotokuya and I'm forgetting a bunch of people, but it was a pretty stellar cast of folks. Miyazato Awamori was there, so very impressed with that idea, and I'm glad that it went so well. Everybody seemed to be kind of relieved and very surprised by how well received the event was. The weather was perfect. It was chilly, so everybody's like, "Oh yeah, give me that oyuwari."
Nice.
So that was fun. Moving on.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, I haven't seen an event like that either. Obviously, some makers will always have oyuwari available when they're doing events, but the having the whole thing set up as that, because I think when we've talked about it both on the live stream and on the podcast, shochu sales are flagging in Japan. It's just that the drinking habits here just have changed, and you need that sort of hook. You need to get new people interested by having sort of that kind of theme, right? And on a
Correct.
cold day, what's better than drinking something warm? So that's
Totally,
pretty
totally,
cool.
totally
Yeah.
agree with you. I have they even made these little. They were smart because the cups, the glasses that you essentially purchased when you bought a ticket were these very simple clear glass cups that were nearly indestructible. I heard them hit the ground repeatedly, and not one of them broke, which they thought I had. Like if they had got kind of thinner glass or something, then you would have had broken glass everywhere. But they put stickers on them, and the one that I got was, what did mine say? Mine said "ii kara damatte oyuwari nondero," which means it's fine. Shut up. Let's drink oyuwari. And then and these are the things I think. So you got to choose your message. Yeah, and there were 3 different versions, and I was just like, this is so cool, so funny.
That's not actually appropriate for you though, Christopher. I mean, you are one of the happiest tipsy people I know. So that should have gone to somebody like me who gets a little cranky sometimes.
No, I think it was on brand in some way for me too.
So you won't shut up sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, just try it. Shut up and try it. So it was good. I hope that comes back. Sorry, I'm carefully pouring a refill of coffee into my massive mug.
No, that seems like it. Was it well attended? Did it have a good turnout?
The organizers seem to be very happy with it, and the folks participating were impressed with the turnout. And it was really it was something that you couldn't miss at Nakameguro Station. You've been in that area before. It was right out in front of that major plaza, and you could easily walk through it and not have anything to do with it. But there's no way you couldn't notice it. So there was a lot of just casual street traffic that came through, and people were like, "What is this? Oh wow, it's Shochu. Oh, I've heard of these guys. Oh, how much is it? Oh, it's cheap. Let's do a round of coins." I think it might have been like 1,800 yen or something for 5 drinks in a little glass. So,
Nice.
and the coins could be used for food as well. So I thought it was well done.
That sounds like an excellent event. If I had some advance notice in the future, I might want to pop up to Tokyo for that.
Yeah, well, I will definitely keep it on the calendar if they do it again. A couple other ones that I went to let's see. Here's this one was about a was this a week later? It was about almost a week later. Shochu Fest at the JSS Information Center. This is the first time that I've ever seen this. This is a great resource. It's not open enough, honestly, for folks for inbound tourists. But if you are here during a weekday, it's only open during the week. They close it on the weekend, which is because it's kind of part of JSS, and they
It's a
have a
government.
reasonable work week.
Yeah, it's
And
essentially a
so
government office. So.
yeah, and on the first floor of this office building, they have a showroom of shochu and sake, and you can go in there and for very, very affordable prices do flights of very interesting products. And they're not just they don't just bring in the big boys; they bring in some interesting stuff. So it's an opportunity to really try and learn about these different drinks traditions from Japan. What they did at this event for the first time, typically what they do is they'll do educational things where they can only get probably 16 people in there. Everybody's seated. Of course, they have their presentations. It's mostly just listening to people talk, and you occasionally have a chance to grab a drink. This one, they had a live music in the corner, and they had a little like shochu station, and then they had a corner that was just this guy, this Awamori guy, who brought all of this like 30-year-old, 50-year-old aged Awamori. I was like, what is going on over here?
Oh
And
wow.
then they had this craft cola section, and then they invited the guy who won the 2023 competition and the winner of a couple weeks ago's 2024 shochu cocktail competition that's hosted in Japan for generally bartenders of big hotels and that sort of thing. And they
Hmm.
had both of them doing sessions where one was mixing his cocktail for about an hour, and then the other guy came in and did his. And I was like, it was all standing room only. They moved all the seats out, all the tables were out. So it was just kind of a party. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a good use of the space. Um, I I was impressed that they went in a new direction there, and I hope that they will do that again. It was, I think, the space mixed with that group of people. People weren't exactly sure how they were allowed to act, but it was generally pretty jovial and lively. Again, a little bit over-programmed, as these things tend to be because there are microphones and people always want to use the microphone. So there's a little too much like, hey, can we have your attention for a minute? Somebody wants to talk. And it's like, oh, God damn it. That
Right,
sort of
right,
thing.
right. Oh no, I hear you. I'd just be over in the Awamori, aged Awamori corner. You know me.
That's basically where I was, trying not to set off the motion sensor that would open the doors yet again, because it was right over next to that door, and it was a blast of cold air every time you walked in front of it. But very good thing. And the end was nice because it was pretty much just music and listening to this impressive fiddle and guitar duo. Actually, it was two fiddles and a guitar, and they were real good. So everybody was just kind of very happy and drinking their shochu and listening to some good music who has gone on world tour and lots of respect to that. Next up, this was on Sunday, the Tokyo Islands Shochu event, which was I actually didn't hear about this until I was specifically invited to it at the last minute. It was basically 12 to 14 different tables in this venue of island shochu from Tokyo, and this is the weird stuff mostly. We've talked about it before. It's the
Hmm.
barley koji, a lot of barley koji, sweet potato shochu, because of course rice doesn't grow very well on these volcanic islands that are technically part of Tokyo but stretch very far south. At the least, you have to take a jet foil. Sometimes it's an airplane to get down to them. And a bunch of these makers were there, and it was a little over programmed. There was too much going on with the seats and wanting people to listen to people talk and look at slideshows and that sort of thing. But generally, pretty enjoyable. And of course, because it's the islands, the cost of entry, you got a little snack plate and a big frickin' mountain of kusaya for everybody. So there was an interesting aroma in the venue, and most of these folks that were in attendance are not from the island, so they're like, really? They gave us kusaya, and everybody tried it, and most people were not able to stand up to the challenge.
Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar, and I've never actually tasted or smelled the stuff, but it's a fermented fish from these islands that Christopher has nightmares about, and so
I do. I end
I'm
up
impressed you
eating it
stuck
all the
around.
time, though. which is mostly because people, well, didn't because Dan Farber came up
Mm-hmm.
here. Did you go to the islands izakaya with him, or
No, I'm not
did he
even
go by
aware of.
himself?
I'm not even aware
He
of an
was like, you
islands
have to
izakaya.
tell me where that place is because he loves kusaya.
Of course he
And
does.
I was like, okay, I'll give you the pin. So he went and he ordered it, and does not speaking any Japanese, and the foreign guy is ordering the kusaya,
Right.
and they have it off menu. They don't put it on the menu because even the folks who are from Hachijojima or wherever don't normally order it. And man, that aroma will fill up a space. Let me tell you.
Man.
And anyways, I'm tempted. I gotta bring you there. But if the problem is if you order it when you're at that izakaya, no, everybody will forgive you because most of the people there are from the islands. They get it,
Hmm.
but they will notice immediately as soon as they smell it. They're like, "Oh my god, who ordered it?" And they just looking
Yep.
around, and they're like, "It can't be the white guys. There's no way it was them." So they're
Right.
wondering, maybe it's that table, or maybe it's the old businessmen over there, or maybe it's that group of young people. And it
Yeah.
comes to our table, and they're like, "Really, you?" And
Yeah.
you do everybody a favor by eating it quickly and getting it off the table and back into the kitchen because it
Yeah. I mean,
just
I would be completely happy to visit without actually ordering it. So.
nobody'll order it if we don't though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not
you
on my
mean you
bucket
mean
list. I got to
visit
be
the
honest.
islands?
No, no, no. Visit the izakaya. Of course, I want to visit the islands. We've talked about that for a long time. Um,
Yeah,
I'm very, very, very curious about that. That's such a different. It is obviously it's still Honkaku shochu, but everything they do down there is just they do it their own way. It's like, and in some ways, it's like this frozen in time production method that's happening down there that we just in Kyushu's become so organized in a way that the distillers here have become very, very professional and about what they're doing. Right, they're
sure.
businesses.
Yeah,
And a lot of those distillers down there are just like, nope, this is how we've always done it. We're going to keep doing it. And of course, we
yeah,
still have a few. We still have a few here in Kyushu and down in Okinawa who are doing it that way. But what 90% of the industry in these major production regions, has not industrialized, but they've modernized. Right? They're using modern
yeah,
equipment. They're using modern methods. They're preserving fermentations with temperature control and that sort of thing. And they're not doing any of that stuff down there, as far as I know. I've never been, but from what you've told me, it sounds like a pretty amazing place to go see some really traditional shochu production.
yeah. I think that's a good way to summarize it. Basically, the distilleries that we tend to visit these days just have built their businesses on stability, consistency,
Hmm.
reliability, predicting
Yeah.
exactly, 2-3 years out how much volume they need to have on hand. And some of these other places, yeah, it's a roller coaster, I think. And of course, I was talking to some of the makers at this event, and we were talking about the potato blight, and it affected them harder than it affected anybody in Kyushu because they kind of they're the last, they have what they can harvest locally. But then
Hmm.
when that gets blighted, they don't have really other sources that they can reliably
Right, right,
tap
right.
into. So
Hmm.
they've been in trouble, in
Mm.
terms of their ability to make any product. And so there was a lot more barley shochu, basically
Hmm. Hmm.
barley koji barley shochu, kind of like in the oita style, except for way more complex. There was a lot more of that than sweet potato that was being presented at this event, I think just because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of stock. So,
Right. Sure. Yeah. When you can't get many potatoes that aren't diseased, you can't make much shochu, and that's
oh yeah.
been a problem throughout the industry. I mean, I think we've talked about it before that there is the possibility that sweet potato shochu is going to become less common and harder to get, more expensive, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
obviously, as we also talked about, there are new varieties coming out. But then again, that's going to be dominated down here in Kyushu. It's going to be a while before those potato varieties make it out to some outlying islands that are so far removed from the main industry.
Yeah, we tried the main one that's being tested called Michi Shizuku. The Tensei makes an expression that was actually really good. So
Hmm.
that's nice. That was very positive. It's just that sweet potato varietal is not widely harvested yet. It's being tested by several farms, but on a very, in terms of the pure hectare level, it's just not that much product or that many sweet potatoes that are being produced yet. But at least the shochu made from it tastes real good. So, anyways, yeah, this is an ongoing issue. Getting better down in Kyushu than in years past, but still a challenge for some. I just want to mention before we move on to, you have an event to announce that's in DC next month. But I just wanted to mention that on Thursday, I'm going to a pop-up here in Tokyo. I'm not going to put a banner up because I think the tickets for both sessions have been long sold out. It's Tom from Thunderbolt in LA, which is if you're into the cocktail scene, you know Thunderbolt. You've heard of this cocktail bar before. Very, very well regarded bar, and he will be popping up at Folklore on Thursday. So I'm excited to go in and have a seat at the bar and see what he's doing. I think it's for whatever the price of admission was. I can't recall. It's 4 cocktails. I think he might be contributing too, and maybe Yukino Sato from Folklore is contributing too, and a little bit of snacks and things, and that should be fun. So I'm excited about that. But in terms of events that you could potentially have access to if you happen to be in DC, this one is one that Steven's doing on the 21st.
That's right. So next month I'll be in DC doing a ticketed pairing dinner with the Bazaar, which is Jose Andres' Japanese Spanish concept restaurant. They just opened in the Ritz-Carlton in Manhattan last year, the same concept, but in their Bazaar location in DC, I'm going to be doing a shochu pairing dinner ticketed event. I'm sure they'll start blasting it on social once the details have been finalized, but we're rapidly planning that now. And with any luck at all, there will be some special things to try that night if we can get them bottled and shipped to the US in time. So it should be a fun evening. Don't know how many tickets are available. I've never been to that space, but
it's not
if you're
small.
interested, keep an eye on social. And if you don't see anything on social, send me a direct message on Instagram or if you're gonna hit me on Twitter, hit me on Japan Distilled, because my Lyman Tweets account is currently unavailable. Thanks for 2-factor authentication.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
That should be fun. Bazaar, of course, yeah, Jose Andres group, and they are, if you're looking for shochu options at many of the Jose Andres locations, I mean China Chilcano in DC as well have decent shochu selections, and they get it, or they're trying to get it and trying to help spread the word. So please give those locations your support. If you happen to be out and about and need something good to eat in Chicago or whatever, try a Jose Andres location and ask about their shochu selections. And if they don't have them, they'll definitely be like, oh yeah, we need to get that in here too. So very appreciative of what they've got going on. And let's see, anything else coming up?
You got the banner up about the new podcast episode coming soon, don't you?
Yeah.
That's so we it should be out, I think, tomorrow morning for those of you in the States. Christopher and I finally got behind the mics together again for the first time in a while, and we gave an overview of what we saw as trends in 2023 and what we think's coming in 2024. Kind of a welcome to the new year. Realize it's a little bit late since it's almost the end of February, but Christopher's a busy man, and we've had some interviews and that sort of thing, but it's been hard for he and I to find time to coordinate our schedules and quiet time to record. But we will have more episodes coming soon. So,
yeah, we will. I'm gonna
and believe me, it's nothing like the conversation we just had. This is I listened to it again, and I had an audio foul up because I'm dumb sometimes, but so I sound like I'm on a telephone rather than in a studio. But I decided that we shouldn't re-record because there's so much good info in there, and it's all just it's just us riffing, and there's palpable excitement coming through your speakers on that episode.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's a good one. So.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right. Well, cool. I don't know. I mean, recently, I'm going to be honest with you. This is the same thing I said on the previous, the newly opened or bottle kill. I don't really have anything to say because I just haven't been home to do any damage really.
Yeah.
So
I've been saving my bottle kills, and of course I decided to take a walk today. It's like these empty bottles
actually had something
scattered around my feet. Yeah.
Crap.
I guess the cool one that I killed recently, and if I tell you, then I can recycle the bottle without waiting. Was I had a bottle of encrypted 3 from Nine Leaves Distillery.
Oh wow,
The
that's
a
old
cask
school.
strength rum that was released a few years ago. It was really, for me, the most kind of grown up Japanese rum I'd had.
Hmm.
They're doing things much more in a traditional Caribbean style rather than Japanese rum tends to be very kind of agricole grassy, and it's great, it's fun. But Nine Leaves is a little bit more reserved. In some ways, it was like a rum for whiskey drinkers. Like it had definitely had the cask character, but really nice sweetness from the molasses. It was really nice. But I finally finished that bottle after about 3 years of it sitting because it's at 57% alcohol. It's not something I'm going to drink all the time.
You're gonna have half of a shot occasionally, right? I think I have a bottle of
Exactly.
that lying around somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I might have to
Yeah.
open that tonight, but very cool. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. I honestly don't have any newly opened stuff, so I have nothing to contribute here. But
No worries.
everybody, thank you, everybody who watches this on archive. Please check out your Japan Distill feed, the podcast feed, to make sure that you're caught up. And let us know if you have any questions or comments. The website japandistill.com is always a good resource for in-depth podcast notes that will fill in the cracks and the gaps. And until next time, I don't think we're going to be on here next week because Stephen and I are both going to be moving and shaking. But maybe a couple of weeks from now, we can reconvene and do another Show Tuesday. So from both of us here in Japan to all of you out there all across the world, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai. Kanpai, Stephen.
Kanpai. Kanpai.